If one of y'all says some silly ass name, this whole class is gonna feel my wrath. Son of a bitch!
For months, the president has unleashed an all-out attack on mail-in ballots, but Mr. Trump's attempt to sow doubt in the integrity of our elections is not new.
This voting system is out of control. You have people, in my opinion, that are voting many, many times. Just make sure your vote gets counted. Make sure, because the only way we're going to lose this election is if the election is rigged. Remember that. So important that you watch other communities, because we don't want this election stolen from us. We don't want this election stolen from us. I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it.
Rinse and repeat between 2016 and now. Now, an exhaustive investigation by the New York Times details how the president is using a decades-old playbook and the power of the federal government to cast doubt on the validity of the election should he not come out on top. Quote, the movement to convince the country that voter fraud is a present danger to democracy has itself become a present danger to democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our 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 democracy.
It has melded fully into the president's re-election campaign. The argument is now that the only way Trump can lose this election is through sweeping voter fraud that benefits his opponent. Any outcome in which he does not win, therefore, can be considered illegitimate. This, Trump says, is why he refuses to commit to a peaceful transfer of power. Only fraud can beat him, and fraud is everywhere.
Hey, Allison, good day to you. So as you know, we were told it was going to take days to tabulate the vote, and that's exactly what happened. Despite these baseless claims of voter fraud on social media, right-wing social media for the most part.
Anytime mainstream media mentions Pizzagate, Satanic Panic, and now voter fraud, it's to push the narrative on the back of QAnon conspiracies, to move the left against the right in a civil war. You will be hearing far right through this whole process and the power social media supposedly has over billion-dollar news agencies. Election crimes chief resigns. This happened too quick and obvious, but they need to validate voting so they can destroy an institution which didn't have much power to begin with. This is just one plot point in the narrative against elections.
All right, take a look at this. Scientists discovered a new planet hundreds of light years away from Earth. Pretty creative name. They're calling it K2-141b. Most people calling it Hell Planet. Yikes. It's scorching hot with oceans made of molten lava, winds reaching supersonic speeds, and rocks raining from the sky. This does not sound like a place I'd want to go. Scientists saying, though, it's one of the most extreme planets ever discovered. I'm really interested to see more on this.
The same news agencies you trust to tell you what qualifies as a conspiracy ran with the notion scientists found a CGI planet that rains rocks. Make it make sense.
Following a disputed election and a tie vote, the U.S. Congress installs the most unpopular president in U.S. history as David Jefferson Adams becomes the 44th president of the United States. Shortly after the election, increased unrest, rioting, and a growing number of militias have given rise to ever-increasing domestic terrorism. In response, the president invokes the Homeland Security Act and declares martial law on the West Coast and other areas of the country. Though highly contested, a Supreme Court ruling sidesteps the electoral process, disqualifying popular presidential candidates from several states. Public outrage explodes when a sham election leads to incumbent David Adams accepting a second term in office. During the 57th Inauguration Day ceremonies, Washington, D.C. is struck by a low-yield nuclear weapon, killing David Adams and most of the U.S. Congress. The destruction of Washington, D.C. effectively breaks the chain of succession, sending the nation into chaos. In an emergency vote, the European Union deploys peacekeepers in the greater DC area to secure international interests. With separatist sentiment rising, California's governor declares home rule and secedes from the Union. Texas follows quickly and declares sovereignty, taking neighboring states with them and forming the Republic of Texas. Now, the once United States of America lie in ruin. The time for words has passed, and a second American Civil War now erupts as 7 factions wage war across the land. They battled one another to reclaim a nation, to restore peace, to rebuild this shattered union.
Where does this mentality originate? They had predictive programmed you through these purge movies. Birth of an American tradition. The first purge was when Europeans came across the seas and decimated the Native Americans with famine, war, and pestilence and set up a Luciferian stronghold at the nation's capital. The same men claiming to be Protestants laid its foundations in esoteric fashion with the pentagram and Moloch. America, Rome, Idumea, Edom, it's all the same. And the whitewashing of history, America only tells you of Egypt through the lens of an oppressor.
The power of Egypt, your Egypt. Caesar, you can conquer and hold the world as your own. Won't you understand? Kings are not elected. Gods are not elected.
So they carry Egypt's spiritual energy all across this world. The monument in D.C. is 6,660 inches high and 666 inches wide by no mistake.
We played a lot of purge games this evening. We have just one more. It's called Mommy's Choice. Which one of you will survive this year's purge?
The soul of our country is at stake. The soul of our country is at stake. The purge targets the poor and the innocent.
The senator's going to win, and she's going to make real changes too.
It is a night that is defining our country.
It's time to do something about that senator.
The purge has to come to an end.
You take a lot of risks, Senator.
I have to. I was the only one in my family to survive. What made you apply for this position?
I almost did something on purge night some years back. I want this night gone.
I want men in all these rooms. We got eyes and ears on everything.
All right, let's begin.
This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of the annual purge. At the siren, all crime, including murder, will be legal for 12 hours.
Governor Ron DeSantis has drafted a bill that critics say could have damaging consequences. According to the Miami Herald, the governor's so-called anti-mob legislation is an expansion of Florida's Stand Your Ground law, a law that means that you can't be charged for killing someone if you're in fear for your life. Those who oppose it say expanding the law could give armed people the legal right to fatally shoot suspected looters or anyone damaging a business. This new push is reportedly in response to police brutality protests that happened in Florida and across the nation this year. The Miami Herald also says the legislation would make it a third-degree felony to block traffic during protests, give immunity to drivers who claim to unintentionally hurt or kill protesters blocking traffic, and withhold state funds from cities that cut police budgets. Longtime criminal defense attorney Greg Lerman has handled stand-your-ground cases before.
Basically, looking like the Wild West. I don't think this law should be passed. I think this is a dangerous law. I think this law doesn't lead to peace in the streets. I think this law leads to lawlessness.
We are on our own. We have one goal right now: survival.
Senator, come with us.
You don't understand what's at stake here. Maybe
It's our duty to help protect her.
Here they come.
Blessed be America for letting us purge and cleanse our souls. Join me as we eliminate evil. Purge and purify. Purge and purify.
We are before the time of the great tribulation. By the word of Yah, I must prepare your spirits in truth, no matter how dark, grim, or unbelieving it may seem to you at the time. If you accept these teachings and heed the warnings, you are, metaphorically speaking, putting the blood of the Lamb on your door so the wrath to come may pass you by. This is not the time to rest on your laurels. We must work out our own salvation with fear and trembling.
It is not forbidden to look upon the breath of pestilence. Then see, for it is here.
It shall come to pass when that appointed day has gone by that then shall the aspect of those who are condemned be afterwards changed, and the glory of those who are justified. For the aspect of those who now act wickedly shall become worse than it is, as they shall suffer torment. Also as for the glory of those who have now been justified in my Torah, who have had understanding in their life, and who have planted in their heart the root of wisdom, then their splendor shall be glorified in changes, and the form of their face shall be turned into the light of their beauty, that they may be able to acquire and receive the world which does not die, which is then promised to them. But those who have been saved by their works, and to whom the Torah has been now a hope and understanding and expectation, and wisdom a confidence, shall wonders appear in their time. For they shall behold the world which is now invisible to them, and they shall behold the time which is now hidden from them, and time shall no longer age them. For in the heights of that world shall they dwell, and they shall be made like unto the angels, and be made equal to the stars. And they shall be changed into every form they desire, from beauty into loveliness, and from light into the splendor of glory. For there shall be spread before them the extents of paradise, and there shall be shown to them the beauty of the majesty of the living creatures which are beneath the throne, and all the armies of the angels, who are now held fast by my word, lest they should appear, and are held fast by my command, that they may stand in their places till their advent comes. For what then have men lost their life, and for what have those who were on the earth exchanged for their soul? For then they chose not for themselves this time which beyond the reach of anguish could not pass away, but they chose for themselves that time whose issues are full of lamentations and evils, and they denied the world which aged not those who come to it, and they rejected the time of glory, so that they shall not come to the honor of which I told you before. And therefore, be not curious how the wicked shall be punished, and when, but inquire how the righteous shall be saved, whose the world is, and for whom the world is created.